Hey, now we are. All right, just while people file in the room, I always like to kick off with just some super nonsensical stuff. So, Kellie, ladies first. It's September 26th. Pumpkins, yes or no? Is it too early for pumpkins?
It's too early for pumpkins. Pumpkins. You mean not pumpkin spice things? You mean like pumpkins on the decorating your front porch?
Anywhere, I
Yes.
guess.
Yes. Pumpkins on the front porch. Too early? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Bring them on.
But you're way north too, so that's different. It might impact that a little bit. Seth, what do you think? Well, you don't have a front porch, right? So
I don't. I have kind of a back stoop where we are. There are steps up to my building, and I'm surrounded by trees where I am in my part of the city. And I got to tell you, it's fall here. It's it's feeling pretty fall. So let's go with the pumpkins.
yeah, I'm in the south, so I've got to go with the no pumpkins. Too early. My wife said it's never too early for pumpkins, but
Oh my goodness.
I'm of the mindset that it is. We still have a lot of leaves on the trees. Some are falling, but
Yeah, so do we. But yeah.
And this is what I love about the chat. Kathleen Volk says it's too early for pumpkin. She's not done yet with margaritas.
Oh,
Yeah,
you go, Kathleen. You go, Kathleen.
Yeah, let me do my job here before we get into margaritas, and then you guys can talk about whatever you want for 50 minutes. So, all right, good morning and welcome everyone to Insightful Accountants Future Forward Summit. My name is Gary Dehart. I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of the Future Forward Summit. Our kickoff session is advisory isn't a four-letter word, is not a four-letter word. Part 1, marketing your services. Our speakers are Kellie Parks and Seth Fineberg. They will introduce themselves momentarily after I cover all that good housekeeping items. And those housekeeping items are, we are offering CPE for this session. You have to be, just like all of them, you have to be here 50 minutes. You must answer at least 3 of the polling questions. If you do want to receive the certificate, we're going to have an additional polling question that says, do you want to receive your CPE certificate? Yes or no? If you want to receive it, say yes. If you say no, guess what? We won't send you one. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Would you guys want them in the chat or in the Q&A panel? Specific questions.
I'm fine with yeah. I mean, the chat, as long as it's in one place, it seems like everything's coming through the chat. So Cal, I'm fine with just having it there, but
all right, there we go. So you heard it. You heard it from Seth. Put your questions in the chat. Be specific when you put a question in there, though. Don't just say, would you buy that? They may not be able to answer it for a couple of minutes.
We'll do our best.
Yeah. So just be real specific in that question that you ask. And yes, the recording will be posted to our YouTube page, which I will drop a link to our page into the chat. We'll also send you that link in the follow-up email that you will receive. We are going to share the slide deck with you as well. I'll drop that in the chat once Kellie and Seth take over. And then it will also be included in the link that we send you tomorrow as the follow-up. Kellie and Seth, go ahead and do your thing, and then we'll say thanks to our sponsor, which, by the way, our sponsor is Kajabra Marketing for Accountants. We have a little more of a blurb that we will throw out there after we get through a little bit more intro. So you two, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to quick run through of a few things first. Well, first I got to get my advancer working. So today we are going to put meaning into the word advisory so that you can market it effectively. Our agenda is how to rephrase advisory to a meaningful, less hype-filled set of words and phrases. We are going to decide how to use more realistic language in the marketing of services to current and prospective clients, how to achieve more value for your services. Don't give away your brain. Seth, I think I speak for both of us here. I bet a lot of accountants and bookkeepers are doing advisory work for free because we don't consider a lot of this advisory work.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about that a little bit because the words you use to describe what you do are your value proposition, and your value proposition brings in more money. So don't be giving this stuff away. And Seth and I want to remind you that this is a panel. This is not like a workshop, or we're not going to lay out a marketing program. We are going to organically chat about some of this. Yes, you will receive the slides for the webinar. And so what tools and tactics actually make sense to move forward as an advisor and not just as a compliance officer? And Seth, I think you agree with me. Let's go back to the third idea, and that is people are doing more than compliance work, but not charging for it because they aren't marketing it effectively.
Absolutely, absolutely. I literally just wrote an article about this. I believe it got posted in CPA Trendlines, as well as my own newsletter that I have. We can get into that later. But yeah, it was really around this very, very topic of, just I entitled it "Careful, You Might Be Advising," and we've talked about this idea of the accidental advisor, but to Kellie's point, through the natural course of what you all do, if you are having a regular conversations with your clients, guess what? You are advising. And the majority of you, I'm willing to bet, are not charging for it. And if you are, great. Kellie and I are going to be here today talking to you about how to really not have to even use that word. We're going to be very explicit about what you do. So happy to be here with you this morning to go through it with you. I've been yep.
Seth?
Let's go. Let's get into it, Cal. They're ready and raring to go. And of course, please, all questions in here. Kellie and I are going to be doing. We're going to be following the chat as best we can, and we will try to get to some of your questions either by typing in the chat or we'll do it live here. So let's get it.
Super fun, Mario. And I've seen lots of good ideas come out
Hey,
of
Mario.
So hi, Mario. Mario says the main 4-letter word we don't want to use is free. And so, we should just rephrase this whole thing, right? Main 4-letter word is not free. And I'm going to go totally off topic because that's my specialty. And wait a minute.
Here we go. We're going on a journey, people. Stay with us.
We're going on a journey. I do have my bell. There will be some self-belling going on. My bell's not working very well.
Nancy wants to ring the bell.
Now I totally forgot where I was going off. So let's just carry on. I'm Kellie Parks. I have a bookkeeping firm up here in Canada. And I want every accounting professional to love cloud accounting as much as I do. That's me.
And I'm Seth Fineberg. Former journalist and editor of Accounting Web and with Accounting Today. I've been covering the accounting profession for over 20 years. I have now put out a shingle, as they say, and started my own consulting practice called Accountants Forward because I believe that this profession needs to do just that. And I am speaking at conferences, webinars, writing articles, and also working with some of the vendors in the community to help communicate, their needs and wants better to you. So the accountants to help you move forward. So happy to be here with you today talking about this really, really great topic that is nothing new to Kellie and I. We've been hearing it for so long, really since advisory became a thing. We're going to get into it today.
Okay, so I remembered what I wanted to say, and I was just putting it in the chat so that I wouldn't forget. Nancy, on the pom-pom, share the great ideas on for people who don't know me, and that's a lot of you in here. I am seeing a ton of new names. So I self-bell, but my bell's not working. I bell when I get off topic, and I throw pom-poms in at live events. I throw pom-poms into people in the audience when they have great ideas or are
I've
already
seen
doing
it.
great things.
She'll do it.
Yep, I'll do it. I'll be doing it at Connect coming up in Las Vegas. But what I really wanted to say was back to Mario's point about the 4-letter word is free. The most simple, actionable thing you can do right now is to put your online scheduler behind a paywall. so that if clients are coming to you for advice that is out of the scope that you are doing, they have to pay to book time with you. Until you start working this into your pricing, have them pay to book time and just say, hey, I really look forward to helping you with this problem, but we are not engaged on it. So here's a scheduler to book some time, and then they have to pay for it. I do that with a few clients that I've got ongoing, very roughly sketched out agreements right now. And in order to book the extra time with me, then they need to simply go to my scheduler and pay me in order for me to do advisory work with them. So I have one that is changing up entirely how they're doing some of their payroll and what that's looking like. Well, it is not part of our engagement. And so they simply booked time with me. So using your online scheduler, having it behind a paywall is super quick way to get going on it. And Nita wants to know which scheduler I use. So I actually have a couple in play. I'm switching, but they're all great. It does not matter which one you use. Acuity, Calendly, TidyCal, pick one, go with the free version at first, see how it goes. If you don't interface with that very well, then move on to some of the other ones. But they're all great, and you can set up an online scheduler as fast as you can set up one meeting going back and forth by email with a client. So anyways, that was a little bit off topic, but a super simple way.
Kind of.
So it's not marketing, but a super simple way not to be giving away your brain.
No, this is how to get started. Definitely be explicit about it and really figure out what that scope is. This isn't just saying, hey, going to have a quick call, but if you know that, okay, some of these calls specifically are going to, potentially lead to some other work, or it's a conversation about something that's kind of out of scope. There you go. Got to charge.
Don't be afraid to charge for it. If you are busy and really don't want to be meeting with people, don't be afraid to charge for it. You can have different charges so that one is for current clients, maybe you charge a little less for them, and one is for, I have a client that I am strictly doing advisory work on setting up their entire process and what their tech stack looks like. That's a much higher level advisory engagement, and they have not hesitated to pay that. So, but on to a minute. Gary, do you want to introduce Kajabra, or do you want me to do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got it. So Kajabra Marketing for Accountants. So again, it's Kajabra Marketing for Accountants, offers turnkey marketing solutions exclusively for accountants. Formerly Thought Leader Creative, Kajabra co-founder Janelle Sikora is no stranger to the public accounting space. Her agency has designed specific solutions to help the firms grow their businesses and automate marketing processes. From getting more 5-star reviews and automating client and prospect communications to brand messaging and website design and development, Kajabra Marketing for Accountants is a full-service marketing agency designed to help grow your firm without compressing your time. And Kajabra is offering a free marketing assessment for one attendee in this session. So you'll all be kind of dumped into the pool. One person's going to win. But we do have a question for you. First poll question here. And that is, are you interested in learning more about Kajabra's marketing and website services? We're going to leave this open for about 10 seconds. It doesn't take long to press that little yes or no button. Then we'll dive right in. You've already gotten like, I don't know. I think you've already thrown out like 10 good points of information here. So, and we're only 10 minutes in. So, all right, we're going to close this out in about 3 more seconds, and then I will turn it back over. 3, 2, and 1. Thank you all.
I'm going to address Julie's question because it's a really great question, but it does not fall into the scope of what we're doing today. But I'm going to try and spin it so it does. So Julie asked, what about clients that email for an answer and it doesn't really require a phone call?
That is a good point.
It is a good point. So first of all, setting the client boundaries through what is the schedule that you are, so they email you and you get back to them in what, 24 hours, 48 hours? Is it a simple question? If you have a way of tracking this, so I use a practice management app, and in Financial Sense, we can turn our emails into projects. I could actually track this so that I would know how many times a client is just asking me a question by email. And you can decide if that client is starting to move out of your scope of work. In the marketing world, you would be marketing this to, you have this much access to us and we want to advise you on this. So does this move out of the scope of what the advisory work is that you are doing for that client? And have you made it clear that you are a genius at this stuff and that it is maybe it's part of your packages? So again, what's your value prop? And how are you managing your value proposition with your marketing language? And then how are you managing the client boundaries around that? I am going to be talking about this more tomorrow. I am doing a session on actually doing the advisory work. And so we can certainly get into client boundaries and that again tomorrow.
Right. This is just talking about how you put yourself out there to your clients, because obviously if you're not marketing your services, definitely get on that. But we're going to be talking about again how to use some different language, different approaches to to doing that. And it's a term again that really I think has. I would say, in no uncertain terms, it's kind of got off the rails a bit. We use it casually in conversation here, but in some of your marketing that you all are doing, behind the work that you're intending to do outside of basic compliance, it really needs to be presented differently. And I know that it's been presented to you by, let's face it, some of the vendors in the community, even some industry organizations. It's been presented in a way that says, well, this is it, and this is the standard term, and this is, you should be going advisory and moving in this direction. But realistically, there just hasn't been a whole lot of, it hasn't been very explicit. And this is why I think, Kellie, correct me if I'm wrong, why a lot of accountants will just, they're the end result is they're not charging for these things. They just think, oh well, yeah, I'm having these conversations with my clients, and I am advising, I am the trusted advisor, but at the same time, you're not getting paid for it. And so, we want to at least end this session today with some idea of how you can go forth and not do these things for free, and be very explicit in your marketing too.
And that's to your value proposition. If your value proposition says we are killing it at reconciliations, then you're answering all of these emails. Your value proposition needs to be reworked, and that's called marketing. Marketing is all about your value propositions. We are killing it at making your financials actionable. It's way more important and raises your value than we do a heck of a reconciliation. So we are tax compliant. Yay, we're tax compliant. But we are giving you financials that are actionable. And if those little emails come in then, but you're already charging more because your value proposition isn't, we can clear that bank feed like it's nobody's business. That is not a value proposition. It's not a race to clear the bank feed. It's a race to make the financials accurate and actionable, and then make it so that the client knows what the heck they mean. Again, I'm leaning into tomorrow now, so hopefully y'all will be tending that one as well. But back to the original thought, advisory is this word that we're throwing around. Don't think of it as advisory. Get your value proposition of what you're actually doing for the client.
What is it? Thank you, Kellie. What is it that you do? Are these meaning in those conversations, what are you talking about? Are you talking cash flow forecasting? Are you talking, you talking about bank recs? Are you talking about, hey, maybe you're in the tax space and you're actually doing this, sort of tax advisory type for tax planning. You're actually doing some tax planning work. Guess what? That's another form of the A word right there. And you have to be very explicit about it. If you're going to be talking about, the taxes that you just did, and talk about, next year and what more you could be doing, this is what we're talking about. Draw a big circle around it and make it, and you should be getting paid for it. I mean, that's really the underline of all this, right, Kellie? Is that you should be getting paid for all of these things that you're doing in your conversations to start with.
I want to come back, Nancy Clellan. way, Nancy has a fantastic article in something called The Morning Brew, which is something I read every morning. Nancy, it was so much fun. So Nancy McClellan, the dancing accountant, super fun article. Loved it, Nancy, as you know, because I sent you a note. Nancy's right. Don't underestimate hourly. And I already alluded to that in the online scheduler. Do not underestimate the occasional hourly billing, but charge properly for that. So I'm going to give you an idea. Nobody talks about price, and I'm going to tell you what I charge. So I'm a Canadian. I charge $250 an hour US. And if somebody wants to book a half an hour for me, that is not $125. I believe it's $195 because one, it's probably going to go over. And two, it takes as much distractional energy to do a half an hour call as it does to do an hour. I don't necessarily want to eliminate them, but I do. And the 15-minute consult, it's really hard to get through to me on my bookkeeping site. It's easy on my advising site, hard on my bookkeeping site. And if you do, you have to answer a whole host of questions, including, are you just trying to pick my brain for free? So find your value.
Too often.
Don't pay on the hourly. My client work is pretty much all monthly recurring revenue. I am still charging for out of scope work. Let's say they hire a new employee, that's menu pricing, they pay extra for that. And if they want to do consults with me outside of the scope of what we're doing, then it is $250 US. And I see Willa is doing the same, and she's also Canadian. But don't do half an hour for 125. So and somebody 5 minutes. So again, it's never going to be 5 minutes. So at any rate, I don't want to get too lost in the scheduler and the hourly. I want to go back to your value proposition.
Yeah. It all sort of circles around it, but yeah.
Does, but your value proposition is not that we do advisory services. And please don't, and then we got the trusted advisor. If we aren't trusted by our clients, then we've really got a problem. My clients trust me more than almost anybody. So I just want to go back to advisory is a very vague word. And so your clients don't attach value to advisory. What they attach value to is, I am going to provide you reports that give you actionable advice. I get into this a little later on with how to reword it. So let's not get lost in here. Should we move on a little bit, Seth?
Yeah.
We can all agree it's too vague. You need to define it more clearly in your marketing world. And by the way, I'm not just some hack talking about marketing. I had a big marketing company for a long time as well. So I come to this with a different spin than a lot of accountants. So we don't really need to talk. We've already gone through this. Seth, shall we get straight into some of this?
Yeah, I mean, let's, really people, and I've seen a couple of questions popping up here and statements popping up that, it is something it's a term we're very comfortable using at this point, but digging underneath it, it really, then you start to see the roots, you start seeing the branches go out, because it's a whole bunch of different things. So we have to get clear, and you all have to get clear on that language. Because as we say here, rephrasing it, making it less hype filled, and just by even saying the word, you're already going, here we go. Like, what is it?
So I would love to hear from people in the words are you using instead. Oh, okay. So we've got a poll question. Go ahead, Gary.
Sorry, I clicked that by accident. Yeah. Sorry about that. But I know we did want to get that in.
Right time for it.
Into this question.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely perfect time, Gary. Let's go. Everyone who's here for CPE, let's get into this poll question here.
Leave this for about 5 or 6 more seconds. Like Seth said, if you want the CPE, you certainly want to answer this question.
And even if you don't, I'd be interested to see the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Closing out 3, 2, and 1.
Okay. Again,
So
this is to our point, right, Kelly? It's like it seems to me that those who maybe a lot who said yes, maybe you're assuming that your clients know what that means, or do you
what
spell it out?
so what I was going to say would be nice is if we could get some other words that people are using. Nancy said she uses the word consulting. Me too.
Okay.
I like consulting because I think it implies listening and working with somebody more so than it implies telling them something. So I think one of the things that is key here is let's ask the questions rather than tell them the things so that it is meaningful to them. And one of the things that leads down that road is in all of your marketing materials, it is not, I do this. It is, you are looking for X. You are suffering from X. Your website, your social posting, your blog, and it's hard. It is hard to do this. All of it should face the problems that the client has, not the things that you do, because that leads to a much bigger relationship than I do reconciling. I will do your tax return on time. Let's just assume that if the client gets us everything and the engagement letter is clear that we are going to do things on time, we don't need to say, I'm going to do them on time. What you could say is, do you need your financials sooner to make decisions? We can do that. Don't say, I'm going to get them by the 10th and then find out they don't care. You haven't asked them, right? So any profit management advisory is a word that's in the chat. Seth, any other ideas? Coaching. I do love the word coaching.
Yeah, I was going to say to Terry, like, just say profit management. You don't even have to say advisory. You're doing it. Profit management. You're doing the work. We're talking about that. We're talking about this. That's the goal. So you're talking goals here, people. You don't even have to use the A word. You just don't.
Just think, even on your website. So it used to be marketing taboo. When I took marketing back when in college, one of the things that they said was never ask a question because you're not sure what the answer you're going to get is. That may be true of the big brands. Still, I don't really know, but that is not true when you are going to be dealing with people with, this is intimate stuff. This is personal stuff. This is scary stuff. This is the stuff that keeps our clients up at night. So ask the question. If they don't answer it in a way that suits what you do, they're not a client for you anyways. So phrase the question of how you solve problems to draw in the kind of people that you want. Don't phrase it so that it's, and again, it's not yes, no questions. Make them think in their mind, what are the 5 things keeping you up at night? And then maybe you give a list so that it gets them thinking. And then we want to solve it. Wouldn't you say, Seth?
Absolutely. As someone who's worked specifically with words, has made a living off of working with words, they matter so much. And I love some of the chats going on here about, there's a little bit about liability, even around the word advisory. Just be very explicit about the work. You're managing, you're consulting, you're building. Coaching, what do you think, Kelly? I'm going to throw this to you. The coaching word has come up a bit. Is that something you want to put in your scope of work? I'm coaching you?
Yeah, you could. There's more.
I would say just consultant, but, because we both do that.
And do you like the spray paint finger? Just so everybody knows, my kids will tell you that if you sit still long enough, I'll spray paint you. So this morning I gathered some really cool branches out of the forest and I spray painted them. Now I'm going to put twinkle lights on them and hang them.
I love the spray paint finger.
So that's my spray paint finger. Okay, so coaching versus consulting. Consulting is very much, let's discuss your problems. Let's listen to where you need help. It's very individual. Coaching is so for me, I do coaching. I help people set up technology. I do some coaching with bookkeeping, not just accounting firms, but SMBs. The coaching would be, let's get your online scheduler set up. Let's get your workflow. Let's get your Google operating at maximum, and let's do a security session, because those are very specific. I'm going to do largely the same thing for everybody, and that's a program. We are going to set up data location redundancy, 2FA, single login. That would be a security. That's coaching. You can offer that as value add on your site, and it's really easy to say, okay, a security session is $650. We're going to do this, this, and this. That's coaching.
And spell it out. Yeah, spell it out.
Consulting is what's happening in your business. What is going on? You can't make payroll 6 months out. What's your runway on payroll? Can we help you with that? Can we look at what we can do? What does your marketing spend look like? And this is getting into tomorrow's session on the actionables, but that is consulting to me. And if anybody wants to counter me on that, I'm completely open to it. I don't know. What do you think, Seth?
Look, again, I'm going to keep getting back around to this point about the words that you use, because we're kind of talking around it, we're kind of dancing around it, and Tori even brought up a good point too about, and a few others have brought out, even that there's some legality behind actually using the term advisor. It's like, if you are not licensed, if you don't have the accreditations,
Right.
yeah, that could be very challenging for you here in the States, for sure. So all the reasons Kellie and I are talking about this today, because it's staid, because it's nebulous, because it's hype filled, and again, potentially, some legal implications here. We have to be able to use better words, and what better way than actually being very explicit about what you do. It keeps you in the scope of your work. It keeps engagement letters that much more focused. So when you do engage in this kind of work, and then of course in your outbound, which is partly what we're talking about, and definitely tune into Kellie tomorrow to really get into the meat of it. But this is all, it all ties together.
So Rachel makes a really good point. Is this advisory? Maybe, again, it is wording, which is very specific. I believe it is the same in Canada. So you have to be very careful. It's what your attestation, what your insurance is. So there is something in Canada, they changed notice to readers to compilations. I don't know if you did that in the States, but at any rate, the language you use around your reports is super key. And you should have a statement if you are doing that, maybe somewhere saying, look, we are only providing management reports. We are not providing, as they're called here, compilation. I do work that leads to audits. So that is one of my value propositions. I'll give you a value proposition, actually. My value proposition, or my statement of wants for my clients. So this is not asking them, this is telling them, which, I said, ask everything, but some things you can tell them. So I tell them that my goals are that at pretty much any given moment, I only do weekly engagements. Some of them are not scoped as weekly, but we're basically doing the work weekly. But the ones that actually are paying for weekly, the goal is that an auditor for IRS, CRA could call and say, we need to do an audit, whether a desk review, whatever it is, and the client can say, okay, let me check with Kellie what the earliest is, because their books are ready. If they want to go for financing, and I'll come back to this in a minute because it leads to the reports. If they want to go for financing, their books are ready, ultimately. If they decide they want to sell, we're basically ready to head over to a lawyer for any of these things. Are they perfect in every moment? No. Are they close that we can probably get them there within a week or two? Yes. So that is a big statement that I make to clients. That is a value proposition, because I want to draw in clients that care that much about their books. If that
And I
isn't,
would argue that so do you all if you're doing books. Like, you want to be able to draw in those clients from the get-go, so you're not having to work through all this.
but people may not want the clients that are either that big or need that level of engagement. Maybe they want a whole pile of those $250 engagements. The ones I'm doing are not $250 engagements. So decide what it is, and then your value proposition on what kind of services lead to that, whether you're asking the questions or whatever. But it goes back to those reports. I don't do taxes, and everything I do is with CPAs that are doing the final work. And I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, but in order to make that work with those CPAs, especially since I do take on hot mess files and then try to get them ready for audit, because maybe I've done it a few times with SaaS companies, with some of these startups that are big startups, getting them ready for the next level. So those are higher. So I'm calling those in by my use of language in marketing. By the way, my website absolutely sucks right now. I am working on it. So don't go to my website and say, doesn't exactly do what she does. That client-facing stuff is coming more in the discussions, and it's in the discovery form. Getting through the discovery form asks them a lot of questions. It doesn't tell them a lot of things. It's asking, and it's asking the questions in a way to lead the client to either continue down the process with me or not. It's self-selecting with the way that I ask them questions. I don't say I'm going to do your books by the 15th. I ask a lot of questions along the road. So back to the reporting, be very cautious about what you name those reports. I know somebody who does not give access to balance sheets to their clients. They are smaller, and they do not want them running off to the bank for financing without telling them or asking them. That sounds counterintuitive to advisory work. I think that is stellar advisory work, because they are saving some of these clients from them silly selves. They are saving them often from factoring of invoices and from getting loans that they should not have. That's advisory. I'm not sure how you would phrase that, but it's like, I'm not giving you your balance sheet because you need to, check in with me whether this is a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. But getting back to our point again, this is all connected. The work that you do and how you market for it. If you're using the right language, meaning you're being as explicit as you should be, you're going to find that the rest of this is going to be a lot smoother. The conversations with clients are not going to just be just around you trying to define what, well, basically advisory or consulting or coaching is. You're going to also, more importantly, you're not going to be leaving money on the table. We can get to that in a little bit. But we're up to the point of talking about achieving more value for your services, giving away your brain. And this is what I was about to jump into, about the whole leaving money on the table.
I'm all ears, Seth.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, look, it's something that I've written about, but because if you're not being explicit about the scope of your work, one of the essential ways to avoid this is, I would say, maybe delving into, the idea of subscription pricing and what you do, what you will do is sort of a tiered, fixed fee type of situation. Ultimately, the higher value work comes from these deeper conversations. Again, there's that word again, because that's really ultimately what you're doing. You're talking more and you're planning, and you have to, what you have to do for your clients respectively. Plan for it, put it in your engagement letters and on your list of services that you provide. remembering the value of three, 3 choices, 3 tiers of work. Each one can contain some level of, we're going to discuss X and Y, time, and, the work you do to get to Z. So this is kind of what we're talking about next, the tools and tactics that make sense to move forward as an advisor, right?
How you price the work is key. So one of the tools is going to be that engagement letter.
And communicating it.
Yeah. So
Love that word.
Yeah. So a couple of things here. One of them is the engagement letter needs to be clear, but in order to get somebody to read the engagement letter, make it attractive. So even if you're using one of the, and there's lots of them, there's Ignition, there's Go Proposal, I use 17 Hats, there's PandaDoc, but don't underestimate the value of a slide deck and brand it and add that in somewhere that also talks about all the extra things that you do. So I think making things attractive so that people will look at them and value you as a higher level professional, I think is a really good one. I'm going to give you another one. Create a peace of mind policy and let your clients know it. Because yes, I spray paint my engagement letters to make them attractive. So for the win, Nancy. So now I lost myself. It doesn't matter, but making things, we're not great at it as accounting professionals. So don't underestimate the value of getting a brand identity set up, and slide decks are so easy to brand. You can add in all kinds of fun things really easily. Just Google a little bit using PowerPoint or Google Slides. PowerPoint right now has Designer built right in, which is killer. I never thought I would love a Microsoft product over a Google product. I'm not slamming Microsoft. I just don't, it hates me. But PowerPoint right now is killing it.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, it's killing it. And if you can set that up so that you have collateral to send out, and one of the pieces that I send out that is a big value add is that I do charge for a security session. When I bring on a new client, we do a security audit. So that is a value add that I am doing. But also I have my security statement on my website, and I send it to prospective clients saying, here's how we work here, because we're only as strong as our weakest link. So we need to make sure that the clients are on board, their team's on board, we're on board. So I actually have a peace of mind policy that goes out that they see, and then that leads to me helping them develop their own. So it doesn't always have to be about accounting. What can you do that strengthens your firm that you can then bring over to a small business? Because essentially we're businesses, and what we learn in our business is advisory work in our client's business.
Somebody brought up the point, Cal, about so we were talking about the things that you're branding, you're putting things on. What about looms? So looms, I think, are great. I love seeing that more accountants are creating these, because we talked about the coaching, like that's kind of a form of coaching and advising as well. But you're really, because you're walking someone through a process. You're spelling it out for them. And I love the idea of branded looms too. Like really, like, so I guess the question was, she said, it's not sure if it suffices, but it's what I do, if, what do I do if I'm printing it out, which is what I try not to do. I've just started with a reporting software. Not sure how this will change if I'm doing monthly reports. So
yeah, reporting software is definitely a tool that you can take a look at.
Mm-hmm.
We need to pop in a poll here. We've
got
some
poll
requirements time, and we're running tight on time. So Gary, can you do a poll? And while the poll is up, there are lots of there's lots of tools out there to help with this. One of them I love is forms. So I personally use Typeform. but building forms is a form of marketing. So first I'm using it for my discovery form. I also use it for a re-engagement survey. And the questions in my re-engagement survey lead to the good work I have done all year. It doesn't say, did you love the reconciliation I did? It doesn't ask, did we do well? It actually leads to all of the things that I want them to answer in a certain way. So, it asks if they understood their reports. It does ask, one of the first questions is, what are your big hairy goals for this year, and then what are the problems that we need to solve? And that is the starting point, so that they have already told me some things that I can help them with. And then some of the other questions are around the higher level work that we've done. I never say, hey, wasn't that a killer reconciliation? Paul has another great one on tactics. Yes, don't get into accountant speak 100%, or give them a glossary. My client handbook actually has a glossary because I want them to understand what retained earnings means and how it impacts dividends, for example. Go ahead, Seth. You were going to say something.
No, I was to say I'm just looking at the results of this latest poll, and thank you all for participating in that, about just the type of work that our audience is offering. They're doing outside of core accounting. A good chunk still just doing the core. Others are doing some CFO work in addition to core services, but the majority here are solving all kinds of financial and back office problems. This is what we're talking about, because if you're doing all of that, and you need to be very explicit in the marketing and anything outbound that you're producing that says exactly what you do.
Okay. And so I'm going to just address Nancy's question. There are a lot of plugins on that. I don't know any specific ones, not knowing exactly what you're looking to do, but on the AI tool, take multiple web articles. No, I don't know specifically what the chat plugin would be, but I'm sure you could find one. I will tell you a little tactic to use though. In Zapier, there is what is called Zapier Push. It's an extension on your Chrome browser, and you can I use that to gather articles and put them into a single source for me, so that later on I can send them out. So a tool would be Zapier Push, but that is the stuff that you are seeing or searching for specifically. It will then amalgamate them into wherever you want, whether that's a G Sheet or wherever. So Zapier Push does lots of things. It's not just doing that. Zapier Push is a magical, it's like a fun button. Anybody who's using a Stream Deck, it's like a little fun button, and you can Google Stream Deck and you'll see why I'm talking fun buttons. Okay, so we are running out of time. Gary, can we put up one last poll?
I think we've got another. Oh, here we go. Poll question, technically number 4. I guess we could read through this. What do you see as the biggest challenge in marketing your services? I know Kelly and I have been kind of chatting through quite a number of these, but what is it for you? Is it getting started, coming up with the right language, figuring out the right mix and timing? So that, can include some language, and then, just the use of, or confusion of the platforms, themselves.
We should have done a yes to all button.
And a yes to all.
Yeah, or
correct.
At least yes.
That's my fault. 3. I think I came up with this one. So.
Yeah, the last 3. I wish this poll included capacity. Good point, Catherine. Took me a minute there. Do you have the bandwidth? So just because you can do something does not mean you will do. So I recently hired, I can do my own marketing. If you saw my bookkeeping website right now, you'd say, yeah, but not well, Kelly. That's not where my efforts have gone. But I have recently hired a marketing company to help me with some of the things I am simply not getting to, and it is already so worth the money. The reason that I did not do it before is I was all over the map on what I really wanted them to do. I honed in on that, and I have a very clear brand identity folder that they can go into and grab everything. You have to be somewhat organized or be willing to pay for somebody to organize you. Both of those things are key. I think we are at time. Are we, Gary? Or the last?
I guess we can kind of wrap things up. Somebody did ask a really good question here, and this might be for Gary. Somebody asked if there's any way, because there's been such a good flow of conversation and questions in the chat itself. I would think because this is being recorded, the chat will be in as part of that. Yes?
Excellent question. I don't know. We could probably send the chat, like the results of the chat, right, along with the follow-up email. The chat stream itself, I don't think would show in the recording, however.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, and
Lynn, I am so glad that Lynn got that out of it, because that is part of starting your advisory journey or marketing your advisory journey, is also realizing what's your distractional energy and where are people going to start to use you consciously. They're not using you. So on that 15-minute, so only allow 15 minutes for free, and then tell people that you're backing up against another call, so you get off. Don't keep going unless you are super interested in the conversation that's going on. 15 minutes for free. Tell them that you're backing up against
set a timer.
Call,
set a timer,
and then move on. Yep, and then move on is part of learning to value yourself. Because if you aren't valuing so write down 10 great things you do for clients, and don't overthink of what they are, because clients probably think some of the things that we do every day. So we don't give these things a thought. We're like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. We kind of say, it's nothing for me to generate custom reports. This leads to tomorrow. For a client, that may be killer. That may be new news to them that they can access their reports. Write down 10 things that you think you're doing well. And if you want it to be reconciliations, go ahead. You can start with the things that you do, not the things that you share or problems that you solve. That's going to be the start of your advisory journey. But please value yourself first, or you're never going to have a clear value proposition to put out there. Okay.
Very true. Very true. And I'm finding even in my line of work that I'm organically just to this topic, I have had some accountants, accounting firms directly reach out to me and say, look, I've just started, doing CAS services, that'd be client advisory services. So that's that A. And they want to be very explicit in their marketing, and they just want to get going, with it. They want me to review it, go over it. So this is, I hope that we've very, reiterated the point enough about how being very explicit in the work that you do and want to do, and not, use any sort of, nebulous terms. I think we also can underline that we like coaching, we like consulting as part of this. If you're tempted to add the word advisory onto things, maybe just pause, think again, think about what it is again that you do. Maybe it is management, maybe it is compilation, maybe it is consulting. But
I'll tell you, in the SaaS, like SaaS companies and startups, they know exactly what CFO means. So if you're doing CFO work,
thank you. Yes.
Call it CFO work.
This is it. It's very, very specific. Some people, that sort of gets layered in with outsourced accounting as well, often.
Okay, Gary, I know you're trying to jump in here. Good luck.
Oh,
Yes,
that's,
Gary.
that's all right. Hey, that's why you guys
It's a moving train, buddy.
Yeah, I'm the one behind the scenes here, just keeping the trains running. So no worries there. So certainly appreciate that great information and certainly the interaction with those who attended. We do have that. I'm going to leave that poll up there for just like one more second. If you do need that CPE certificate, go ahead and click yes. I am about to close it out. And in light of the great discussion and conversation that was going on, and considering that this is a marketing panel, I did add another poll question, and it's another one around Kajabra, and that's just saying, maybe after this you kind of thought and like, hey, you know what, it couldn't hurt to talk to him. So I'm just going to repost this. If you already answered it and you like your answer, don't worry about adding anything here. But if you said no and you're like, oh, you know what, maybe I should hear from a marketing person, just click yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's speak to Kajabra for a second. Yeah, like check it out. Like I said, just because you can do something doesn't mean you will or you should. Do what you do well. This is what they do well. Right?
Exactly.
Get them, I call it, on your team. For sure.
Perfect. And so, and one other thing I did want to throw out there. So we made a change on Insightful Accountant having to do with our URL that we should have done years ago, that we finally did it. And that may have impacted your ability to actually get to the site. If you're having issues getting to Insightful Accountant, you need to go in. I had a problem with Chrome. I've had people say Chrome and Firefox both have given them problems. Go in, clear your cache, start a new browser, and you should be good to go. If that doesn't work, let me know. Shoot us a note at info@insightfulaccountant.com. You will receive an email tomorrow with a copy of the slide deck, which I did also put in the chat 2 or 3 times. So you should have been able to download it from there. You'll also get a link to our YouTube channel where the recording will sit, probably about 2 days before we get to that. I also put that in the chat as well. So again, Kellie and Seth, thank you both. Everybody who interacted and came and spent an hour with us, we certainly appreciate you taking a hour out of your day. And hopefully, actually, you're going to take another hour, or let's see, we've got 7 more hours of sessions between today and tomorrow. So hopefully you've got 7 hours blocked out of your calendar. So thanks a lot, and we will talk to you soon. And it is too early for pumpkins.
That's it. That's the final result.
That's a
All right.
parting shot.
Fair enough.
Thanks.